Hi, I'm Elodie Ramsey, 34, and this happened last Thanksgiving. I flew home to our big wooden house up in Asheville, North Carolina. Fireplace crackling, turkey smelling insane. The whole family around the table laughing, passing plates, acting like everything was perfect. I waited until everyone had food in their mouths. Then I smiled and asked, "Hey, did the hospital already mail the surgery appointment letter?" Dad and my stepmom looked at each other and actually laughed. "Oh yeah, it came last week." Dad said, super casual, cutting another piece of turkey. "But we used that money for Cole's 27th birthday blowout. Kid only turns 27 once, right?" The table kept smiling like he just told the weather. I set my fork down slowly, looked them dead in the eyes and said, real calm, "So, I guess you still don't know who actually needed that surgery." The room went dead silent. Dad's face drained of color. My stepmom froze with gravy halfway to her mouth. Cole just stared at his plate like nothing happened. That one sentence turned Thanksgiving into a nightmare in 3 seconds flat. If you've ever dropped a single line at a family dinner that made everyone choke on their food, drop your story in the comments. I swear I read every single one. And keep watching till the end, because what happened to them afterward? Yeah, you're gonna want to see that. Their faces went ghost white and nobody said another word for the rest of the night. The morning light crept through the old wooden blinds of the living room, but I hadn't moved from the couch all night. My phone was still in my hand, screen cracked from when I'd dropped it hours ago. I finally unlocked it again and opened the banking app one more time, praying I'd imagine the number. 0. $178,000. Gone. I'd spent the last 10 years keeping this family afloat. Every paycheck went straight into their lives while I lived on ramen and overtime. Cole's tuition at UNC Asheville. The down payment on his BMW when he turned 21. The security deposit on that ridiculous penthouse downtown so he could network. The endless supplemental cards on my Amex that he handed out to his friends like candy. I never said no. Not once. 11 months earlier, Cole had crashed at my place after a night out. He passed out on my couch, snoring like a freight train. I noticed his joints looked swollen again. He'd been complaining about pain for months, brushing it off as old football injuries. Something told me it was worse. While he slept, I carefully drew 2 vials of blood with a kit I'd ordered online. I drove them myself to the lab the next morning. 2 days later, Dr. Nolan Beckett, my ex and still the only rheumatologist I trusted, called me personally. "Elodie, it's aggressive rheumatoid arthritis. He's in the early window. If he starts biologic infusions within the next 6 to 8 months, there's a 90% chance we stop permanent damage. After that window closes, it's lifelong deformity and opioids." I didn't tell a soul. Cole would have spiraled. Dad would have dismissed it. Valerie would have turned it into drama. So I did what I always do. I fixed it quietly. I set up a revocable living trust in my name only. Trustee me. Beneficiary Cole Ramsey, medical expenses only. I poured every bonus, every tax refund, every skipped vacation into it. $178,000. The exact deposit Duke wanted up front for the first year of biologic therapy. Because I travel for work sometimes, I added one single emergency clause in case of immediate medical need for Cole. Either parent could request disbursement with verbal confirmation and a follow-up email from me. I never thought they'd use it. They did. Last week, while I was stuck in Denver on a project, Valerie called my private banker. She used the exact words, "Elodie's oversees Cole's in crisis. She authorized me to handle it." Then she forwarded an email from an address that looked exactly like mine. elodie.ramsey.corp, travel87 and gmail.com, giving permission. The banker saw the clause, saw the email, heard Valerie cry on the phone, and released the full amount in one transfer. Where did it go? Cole's 27th birthday bash, a private mountain lodge rental for the weekend, a semi-famous indie band flown in from Nashville, custom fireworks over the Blue Ridge, 300 guests, half of them influencers who needed the content. Open bar catered by the hottest chef in Asheville. Ice sculptures the works. I pulled up Cole's Instagram. The stories were still there. Him crowd surfing, him popping champagne on a balcony at sunrise, him grinning in front of a neon sign that read, 27 and unstoppable. He had no idea the money lighting up his night was supposed to keep him from spending the rest of his life in a wheelchair. I sat there until the sun was high, phone dead in my lap. My little brother, the same kid I used to carry on my shoulders when he was 5, was about to lose everything because our own parents threw his future away for one weekend of likes and fireworks. For the first time in 10 years, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just felt something inside me switch off. And that was the morning I decided they were on their own. The doorbell ripped through the silence at 2 in the morning. I knew who it was before I even reached the door. I opened it, and there they stood. Dad, Valerie, and Cole, all three reeking of last call bourbon and rage. Valerie shoved past me first, clutching a thick stack of papers like a weapon. She didn't waste a second on greetings. "You cut off every single one of Cole's supplemental cards, didn't you?" she hissed, slapping the statements on my coffee table. "His Amex is declined everywhere. He couldn't even buy gas yesterday." Dad stormed in right behind her. The BMW payment bounced. Repo company already left a notice on the windshield. "They're coming for it in 48 hours, Elodie. 48 hours. 1. Ditch. Jai, Ju. Chi. Tiet Kong Thembot Ungia." Cole lingered in the doorway, hoodie half-zipped, eyes bloodshot. He looked smaller than I remembered. "Sis, the leasing office taped a 10-day pay or quit on the penthouse door this morning. My roommates are freaking out. I'm about to be homeless." I closed the door slowly and leaned against it. For the first time in my life, I didn't flinch. Valerie kept going, voice climbing. "Do you have any idea how this looks? His friends are blowing up his phone." "Yo, why's your card dead?" "He's 27, not some broke college kid. This is humiliating." Dad pointed a finger at my chest. "You don't get to pull the plug whenever you feel like it. This family runs on what you provide. Always has. You stop, we all stop. That's the deal." Cole finally stepped inside, rubbing the back of his neck. "Come on, Elle. Just turn everything back on. I'll pay you back when my next brand deal hits. 2 weeks tops." I looked at each of them one by one. 10 years of excuses, guilt trips, and emergency Venmo requests flashed through my head. The thousands I'd wired at 3 a.m. so Cole could keep up appearances. The flights I'd canceled to cover his rent. The birthdays, Christmases, graduations I'd worked doubles to fund. I took a slow breath. No. The word hung in the air like a gunshot. Valerie's mouth actually fell open. "What did you just say?" I said. "No. Not another dime. Not another payment. Not another excuse." Dad's face turned purple. "You don't get to decide that. You've been bankrolling us since you were 24. That's your role. You don't just walk away." "My role?" I laughed short and sharp. "I'm not an ATM with a pulse." Cole tried the puppy dog eyes that always worked when we were kids. "Sis, please. I've got appearances lined up. Sponsors. If I show up looking broke, it's over." Valerie snatched the papers again and fanned them out like playing cards. "Look at these balances. Look at what you've done. You want your little brother on the street?" I didn't touch the stack. He's 27. He has a degree. He never uses a car he can't afford and an apartment he doesn't pay for. That's not my mess anymore. Dad took a step closer, voice dropping to that scary calm tone he used when I was a teenager. "You think this ends here? You think we're just gonna let you destroy everything we've built?" Valerie cut-in eyes narrowed to slits. "You've got 24 hours to reverse every single cutoff. Cards, car note, rent, all of it. Or you're going to find out exactly how far we're willing to go to protect this family." Cole just stared at the floor, shifting his weight, waiting for me to fold like I always did. I walked past them, opened the front door wide, and stood there. 24 hours starts now," I said. "Get out." They didn't move for a second like they were waiting for the punchline. When it didn't come, Valerie scooped up her papers, muttering something venomous under her breath. Dad gave me a look that could have melted steel. Cole hesitated longest, then shuffled out behind them. The door shut. I locked it, slid the chain, and for the first time in a decade, the house was completely quiet. I stood there in the dark hallway, heart-hammering, waiting for the guilt to crush me like it always had. It never came. A thick manila envelope sat on my doorstep when I got home from work. No stamp, no return address, just my name typed in bold. I carried it inside, slid it open, and felt the floor tilt under me. Petition for appointment of guardian of the estate. And person, for Elodie Marie Ramsey. Filed by Gregory and Valerie Ramsey petitioners. The cover letter from their attorney Richard H. Langford was only 4 paragraphs, but each one landed like a punch. Paragraph 1, I had abruptly and without justification ceased all financial support to my family. Paragraph 2, I had exhibited signs of severe mental instability, including isolating behavior and irrational hostility. Paragraph 3, I posed an imminent risk of dissipating my substantial estate and a danger to my own well-being. Paragraph 4, if I signed the enclosed voluntary guardianship agreement, immediately they would limit the proceeding to financial oversight only. If not, they would seek full guardianship of my person and estate, including the right to place me under psychiatric evaluation and control all medical decisions. Attached was the pre-filled agreement. My signature line already had a little blue arrow sticker pointing to it. I read the whole packet 3 times, hands shaking harder with every page. They had statements from neighbors saying I rarely left the house anymore. A printout of my credit report showing I'd paid off every joint account and removed all authorized users. Screenshots of texts I'd sent Cole telling him to get a job. A note from Valerie's therapist, someone I'd never heard of, claiming she feared for my safety because I'd become cold and unreachable. They even attached a draft emergency ex parte order asking a judge to freeze every account in my name until a hearing could be scheduled. I called the only person I knew who wouldn't flinch at this, Claire Donovan, the attorney I'd used once for a work contract. She picked up on the second ring. Elodie, slow down. Send me everything right now. 20 minutes later, she called back. They're filing under Article 1 of Chapter 35A. North Carolina law lets family petition for guardianship if they can show incompetence or imminent harm. The voluntary agreement is a trap. If you sign, you hand them total control of your money and your freedom. If you fight, they'll push for an emergency hearing and ask the clerk to appoint an interim guardian immediately, sometimes the same day. I've seen it happen. How strong is their case right now? Weak. But clerks grant interim orders all the time on thin evidence, especially if the petitioner cries in court. We need to move fast. She told me to gather every bank record, every text thread, every proof that I was perfectly competent and that they were the ones who drained a medical trust. She also told me to expect things to get ugly. That night I sat at my kitchen table surrounded by folders, scanning documents until the sun came up. Every time I thought about signing just to make it stop, I pictured Cole opening another bottle of champagne he didn't pay for, and the nausea passed. By morning, I had a plan. I wasn't going to sign anything. I wasn't going to beg. And I sure as hell wasn't going to let them lock me up to keep the gravy train running. I sealed my own envelope thicker than theirs, addressed it to Richard H. Langford, and dropped it in the outgoing mail. Inside was a single sheet. See you in court. Snow came down so thick that night it swallowed every streetlight in Asheville. I had just dragged myself home from the grocery store, arms full of bags, when I noticed the certified letter taped to my front door. The envelope was from my employer's HR department. My stomach dropped before I even tore it open. Inside was a single sheet: immediate termination of health coverage due to detection of multiple fraudulent claims exceeding $47,000. 7 itemized bills were stapled behind it. Emergency psych holds at Mission Hospital. Inpatient detox at a rehab in Black Mountain. Suicide watch admissions at Broughton. All dated within the last 45 days. All listing me as the patient. All complete with forged electronic signatures that looked exactly like mine. I had never been inside any of those places. I called the insurance carrier right there on the porch, snow soaking through my coat. After 43 minutes on hold, a supervisor finally read the claims back to me in a voice that kept cracking. Ma'am, these were submitted through the provider portal with your member ID, your date of birth, and a digital attestation. Federal law requires us to suspend coverage pending investigation. I asked for the submission IP addresses. She read them off. Every single one traced back to an address I knew by heart, the house I grew up in. That same night, just past 1:30, someone started hammering on my door so hard the walls shook. I crept to the peephole. 2 Asheville PD cruisers sat in the driveway, light bars painting the blizzard red and blue. Snow poured in sideways when I cracked the door. The officer closest to me was brushing flakes off her shoulders. Her nameplate said, K-Line. Detective Sarah Klein, ma'am. We received a 911 call from a family member stating you were inside attempting suicide. Caller reported hearing screams and glass breaking. We have to come in and visually confirm you're okay. My teeth started chattering, and not from the cold. I'm alone, I managed. I was asleep. She nodded like she'd heard that one before. Policy requires a welfare check when the report is this detailed. It'll only take a minute. I stepped aside. 2 officers moved through the house, fast boots leaving wet prints on the hardwood. They opened every closet, checked under the bed, shone flashlights into the shower, even pulled drawers in the bathroom looking for pill bottles. One of them radioed back. Subject located, conscious, no visible injuries, no weapons, no signs of self-harm. Detective Klein handed me a refusal of medical transport form to sign. My signature came out shaky. As they turned to leave, she paused on the doorstep, snow swirling around her hat. You want to tell me who's got it out for you? This bad? I laughed, once a sound that hurt coming out. My parents. She didn't blink. We get a lot of those calls. Most of them aren't real. She handed me her card. Next time they pull this, you call me directly. I'll make sure the responding officers know the history. After the taillights disappeared, I stood in the open doorway, letting the storm blow in until my fingers went numb. Then I shut the door, slid every bolt, and dragged a chair under the knob for good measure. I opened the insurance portal on my laptop and watched my platinum plan turn red. Canceled. Fraud investigation. $47,000 in fake claims. One phone call at 1:30 in the morning with cops kicking in snow. They weren't even pretending to be subtle anymore. I curled up on the couch, still wearing my wet coat boots dripping onto the rug. The house was silent except for the wind rattling the old windows. For the first time since I cut them off, the absolute loneliness of it crashed over me like an avalanche. No one was coming to save me. No one even believed I needed saving. I stayed on that couch until the sky outside turned the color of dishwater, clutching Detective Klein's card so hard it left indentations in my palm. A process server in a wrinkled gray suit caught me in the Ingalls parking lot on a warm April afternoon, the kind of day when the mountains look close enough to touch. He stepped right in front of my cart and handed me a thick white envelope with the red Buncombe County seal already broken open by the wind. I knew what it was before I even saw the caption. Summons in re-guardianship of Elodie Marie Ramsey. Hearing April 28, 9:00 a.m. Courtroom 2B, Buncombe County Courthouse. Clerk of Superior Court, Margaret Ellison presiding. I leaned against my car and read every page right there in the sun. 11 witnesses. Dr. Marcus Tran, board-certified psychiatrist, claiming he had treated me for acute psychotic break with suicidal command hallucinations. Social worker Lisa Chen, alleging 3 unannounced home visits, where I refused entry and threatened self-harm. 3 former co-workers from a job I left 5 years ago, swearing I had begun hoarding medications and expressing paranoia about family. Two neighbors from streets I had never lived on describing erratic behavior, including screaming at night. A barista from Malaprop's bookstore saying I collapsed in the cafe sobbing about ending it all. Every affidavit was notarized on the exact same date. Every single one painted me as a ticking time bomb who had irresponsibly severed all financial support from dependent family members, thereby endangering both herself and others. The prayer for relief asked Clerk Ellison to declare me incompetent, appoint Gregory and Valerie Ramsey joint guardians of my person and estate, and grant immediate emergency powers to freeze every account, revoke my driver's license, and place me in protective custody pending full adjudication. I drove straight to Claire Donovan's office with the windows down and the envelope flapping on the passenger seat like a trapped bird. Claire spread the papers across her conference table and started marking them with different colored highlighters: yellow for lies, pink for perjury, orange for crimes. 11 sworn statements filed within 4 days of each other, she said, voice low. That's not coincidence, that's a paid orchestra. Look at the notary, same woman on every single one. And 3 of these witnesses used the exact same phrasing. Subject stated she would rather die than continue supporting family. Word for word. She pulled up the North Carolina clerk's manual on her laptop. Guardianship hearings are bench trials. No jury. Margaret Ellison decides everything that morning. If she believes even 30% of this garbage, she can sign an order on the spot, and you lose your freedom before lunch. I stared at the witness list until the names blurred. How do we kill it? We don't just kill it, Claire said, sliding a thick counter motion across the table. We bury it. She had already subpoenaed the notary's records, the coffee shop's security footage, my employer's HR files, proving I had been at work on every date I supposedly collapsed. She had statements from 2 of the 11 witnesses who had already cracked under detective pressure and admitted they were paid $500 each to sign whatever was put in front of them. Most importantly, she had Dr. Nolan Beckett locked in. He'll testify, Liv, Claire said. Full medical disclosure of Cole's diagnosis. The missed treatment window, the forged trust documents, the fireworks invoice, everything. Under oath, in open court. For the first time, your parents will hear the truth from someone who isn't you. I spent the next 3 weeks living inside document boxes. I printed every bank statement, every text, every email. I practiced answering questions until my voice stopped shaking. I walked the courthouse hallways at night when no one was there just to memorize the route from the metal detector to courtroom 2B. On the morning of April 28th, dogwoods were blooming pink against the stone walls. I wore the navy suit I bought for my first real job interview at 24, the one I swore I would never need again. Inside the courtroom, the air smelled like lemon polish and fear. Dad and Valerie sat at the petitioner's table in clothes I had never seen, looking smaller than I remembered. Langford kept adjusting his tie like it was choking him. Cole sat directly behind them, hoodie up, scrolling TikTok with the sound off, still treating the whole thing like a dentist appointment he was being forced to attend. Clerk Margaret Ellison entered at exactly 9. She was younger than the photos, sharp cheekbones, eyes that didn't miss anything. Langford stood first. Your Honor, this is a tragic case of a daughter in crisis. Claire was already on her feet. Your Honor, this is a calculated attempt at financial theft through weaponized guardianship. We move for immediate dismissal and criminal referral. Ellison's gaze flicked to the witness list, then to me. Call your first witness, Ms. Donovan. Claire smiled, small and lethal. The respondent calls Dr. Nolan Beckett. The side door opened, and everything they had built started to burn. Rain hammered the courthouse roof like it wanted in. I sat at the respondent's table, fingers ice cold around a legal pad. Across the aisle, Dad and Valerie kept their heads high, whispering to Langford. Cole slouched in the front row of the gallery, hoodie up, earbuds, and still treating this like an inconvenience. Clerk Margaret Ellison entered and took the bench. The room went dead quiet except for the storm outside. Langford stood first, voice syrupy with concern. Your Honor, we are only trying to save our daughter from herself. Claire rose beside me. Your Honor, the petitioners are attempting to seize control of my client's life and assets through fraud and perjury. We ask for immediate dismissal and criminal referral. Ellison's eyes narrowed. Counsel has listed an additional witness, Dr. Nolan Beckett. Call him. The side door opened. Nolan walked in wearing a dark suit carrying a thick red folder. He hadn't looked at me once since we broke up years ago. Today his eyes locked on mine for half a second, steady, apologetic, ready. He took the oath. Claire started soft. Dr. Beckett, please state your relationship to Cole Ramsey. I'm his diagnosing rheumatologist. 11 months ago, I confirmed aggressive rheumatoid arthritis. Without biologic treatment in the first year, permanent joint destruction is almost guaranteed. Gasps rippled behind me. Valerie half stood. Objection. That's private. Ellison banged the gavel once. Overruled. Continue. Nolan opened the folder. Mr. and Mrs. Ramsey were never informed because Ms. Ramsey intended to fund the entire protocol herself. She created a revocable trust containing $178,000 exclusively for Cole's care. He projected bank records onto the screen, the forged email, the withdrawal, the lodge rental, the fireworks invoice, the influencer payments. Dad's face went gray. Valerie clutched the table edge. Nolan kept going. The treatment window closed 4 months ago. Cole now faces lifelong deformity and opioid dependence. That money was his only realistic shot. Cole yanked out his earbuds. What the hell are you talking about? Nolan turned to him. Your parents used your medical trust to throw your birthday party. You needed that money to walk normally for the rest of your life. Cole's mouth opened, closed, opened again. He looked at Valerie. Mom. She wouldn't meet his eyes. Claire handed Ellison the stack of 11 witness affidavits, then the counter affidavits from 3 of them, recanting paid $500 each, terrified when detectives showed up. Langford tried to object again. Ellison shut him down. She scanned the documents for 8 long minutes while thunder rolled overhead. Finally, she looked up, voice like steel. After review of the evidence, I find no credible basis for a finding of incompetence. The petition is frivolous, filed in bad faith, and supported by what appears to be coordinated perjury and financial exploitation. She turned to Dad and Valerie. Gregory and Valerie Ramsey, your petition is denied with prejudice. All filing fees and respondents' attorney fees will be assessed against you personally. Another bang of the gavel. Furthermore, pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 35A 1116 and 14.1 and 12.2, this entire record is referred to the Buncombe County District Attorney for immediate criminal investigation into financial exploitation, forgery, and perjury. The gallery erupted. Bailiffs moved in. Ellison stared straight at them. This case is closed. Marshals will escort the petitioners from the building. Dad tried to stand. His legs wouldn't hold him. Valerie was openly crying. Cole just sat frozen, staring at the projected invoice for the fireworks that cost him his joints. Nolan stepped down from the witness stand, gave me the smallest nod, and walked out. I stayed seated until the room emptied, rain still pounding the windows, letting the words sink in. They lost. And for the first time in a year, I could breathe. Cole's first flare-up hit in June. By August, he couldn't grip a coffee cup. By October, he was on a walker. The pain meds went from hydrocodone to fentanyl patches in under 4 months. At 28, he qualified for SSDI $842 a month after Medicare premiums. That was his entire income now. Disability checks and whatever side hustle cash he could scrape together before the next joint locked up. Dad and Valerie lasted exactly 91 days after the hearing. The court-ordered sanctions and attorney fees topped $130,000. Their house went into foreclosure the week before Christmas. The bank padlocked the wooden doors I grew up behind while they loaded what little they had into a rented U-Haul. I never answered a single voicemail. I put the Asheville house on the market in January. It sold in 6 days, cash offer from some couple out of Nashville looking for a mountain getaway. I paid off the last of my own student loans, closed every joint account that still had my name on it, and bought a one-way ticket out. Charlotte was only a 2-hour drive down I-40, but it felt like another planet. New job, new apartment in Noda, new number no one from my old life had. I even started going by my middle name at work, Marie, just to hear something that didn't remind me of them. The closing on the house was scheduled for the first warm day in March. I drove up one last time, windows down, music loud enough to drown out memory. The Blue Ridge looked exactly the same, mist hanging low over the valley's dogwoods just starting to bloom. I pulled into the gravel driveway that used to feel like home. The new owners had already changed the mailbox. The porch swing was gone. Someone had painted the front door a cheerful teal instead of the chipped forest green I remembered. I walked through every room one final time. The living room where Thanksgiving exploded. The kitchen where I used to make coal-grilled cheese when he was 5. My old bedroom now staged with generic art and a bed that wasn't mine. I left the keys on the counter next to the closing paperwork and locked the door behind me for good. Standing on the porch, I took one last look at the mountains that raised me. Somewhere down in the valley, Cole was probably waking up to another day of pain he couldn't outrun. Dating somewhere. In a cheap apartment, Dad and Valerie were learning what it felt like to be the ones who ran out of options. I didn't feel triumph. I didn't feel guilt. I just felt finished. I got back in my car, rolled the window all the way down, and let the mountain air hit my face one final time. Then I drove east until the peaks disappeared in the rearview mirror. Here's what I know now, what I wish someone had told me at 24 when I started carrying everyone. Love isn't a blank check. Family isn't a lifetime subscription you can't cancel. And the second you make your peace, someone else's emergency, you sign away your own future. If you're out there paying bills, you didn't create, raising kids that aren't yours, keeping lights on for people who would watch yours go dark without blinking. Listen to me. You are allowed to stop. You are allowed to walk. You are allowed to choose yourself without being the villain. Because the people who really love you, they never would have let it come to this in the first place. That house is gone. Those mountains are someone else's view now. And I have never slept better in my life.